what do you do to a mental and emotional person that is suffering? What do you do exactly?
Mm. Okay, let me just take you through a kind of an example. I know we kind of jumped way into this, but it's probably where it was going anyways. Um, what we did and how it started was as a Navy SEAL, I was working, ending my career in San Diego, at one of the where the training is, and right across the border in Tijuana, there happened to be these Ibogaine centers, one being Crossroads Clinic, started by Dr. Martin Polanco, who saw a bunch of veterans coming in to try to get treatment from this African bark that comes from a plant called Iboga. It's an alkaloid. And in this alkaloid is a very powerful resetting agent that we're trying to study now because what happened was Dr. Martin saw these SEALs and veterans coming in to to treat their heroin addiction. And he thought maybe there's a relationship to trauma and addiction. And of course, we know now through the neuroscience that it's a one to one. And this is why this needs to be studied. So he said, well, let's open up a clinic for SEALs and get funding and put them through these treatments. And he kind of came up with a protocol, which was 3 days. You get down there, you would do this one African bark alkaloid, and it was not fun. These were not fun. Like guys were not showing up like all happy Skippy Doo. They were showing up barely keeping a gun out of their mouths. And, they were at the wit's end. And so because our strength of the SEAL teams is we know how to pass the word because we're small. And we generally had the same symptoms. So as we started seeing success in these treatments, which weren't easy, they're really tough. And of course, like all psychologists know that trauma's really developed in the early years. So it's compound events. Then you go to war and you see things you shouldn't see and do things you shouldn't do. And I call it the stain of shame. And these things compound. And what was being offered to us is not simply working. The SSRIs do not work for 80%
So are
of the
you
people. And
saying
that's what
that most of the Navy SEAL were having mental and emotional problem because of some type of addiction, or was it because of what they would see while being a Navy SEAL?
the addictions are symptoms of trauma beneath. That's how we deal with the trauma is the addiction. And so every war that's ever been fought are a bunch of lunatic guys, a lot of them doped up on something, going out and killing each other. And that's the nature of war.
So they were
And so,
already
yeah,
addicted to some form of a drug or something before entering into the Navy SEAL.
I'd say a lot of them were, but not. No, what I'm saying is let's look at it through neuroscience. When you're come from an environment of survival mode and you're out there surviving, it can be like a drug. You get real good at it, and it heightens everything up, like dopamine. So we get these spikes of dopamine because we're not safe, and that can be from my parents arguing to someone's trying to shoot me down the street to
Yeah.
whatever the body doesn't feel safe. These are what we're trying to study to understand the effects on the psychology. So over time, if somebody's groomed in these settings, which that's what Dr. Eric Potterat found, the guy from the Dodgers, he said, I can predict 92% of these kids going through Hell Week that are going to fail because they don't meet the criteria. And the criteria was they weren't pre-exposed to a life of survival. I happen to be. My grandpa was a World War II D-Day professional boxer. I think it probably did the family business stuff in Detroit. My dad tried to steer it the other way, but never got over his lack of, what I call emotional quotient or real, fatherly, godly
But what I'm
love
trying to
because he,
understand, when they would take this piece of bar down in Mexico or wherever, did they heal completely from the mental and emotional trauma?
so what I saw was that it offered a reset that I couldn't get because my nervous system was so wound up, so I was so good at surviving being a SEAL, we couldn't break through. We couldn't hit the off switch. And so, especially when you see in the transition is guys are getting this, they're on this roller coaster. They can't lose, they can't quit, they can't say no, they have to go. It's their ego and it's their identity. And so when the identity is not there, this you can talk about. I've work with professional athletes, singer songwriters, CEOs. It's always the same. You see the drop off when they lose their identity, and you ask yourself why. And it's because a lot of these neurochemical associations to dopamine, to being affirmed, to having a position, it's very psychological. So as a SEAL, you go from being one of the nation's top warriors and wearing this trident to now what?
So, but
And,
once they
and
took this bar down in Mexico or wherever, were they completely healed from the trauma?
yeah, I like that word healed is a very, people throw it around. And I would say no.
They were not
I would
healed.
say no. I'd say the healing really, for me, it was my faith that saved me. And then the experience helped me heal. And then from there, I learned how to heal myself through, the things I learned, neuroscience like saunas, cold plunges, meditation, breath work. Your environment will dictate a lot of your success in terms of health, how to let go, really, all these things that no one really teaches us in society,
Yeah.
especially in the military. And that kind of journey, I think that what we're finding out about healing trauma of the nervous system, or just how important treating the nervous system is in general and the connection to the heart, like that's a whole nother subject. That's talking about the vagal nerve, and you got the same wiring that reaches around the heart that innervates your face. So when I see these guys do the medicine, especially the next one, which is 2 days later after the bark, it's called 5-MeO-DMT, and it comes from a toad. And when they do this one, they call this one the God molecule, because of this neurological reset that happens because it's so freaking powerful. If you get in its way, it comes up with like a personalized death.
So
It's horrible.
the bar that they took down in Mexico or whatever, it didn't completely heal the mind and emotion, but it did help. It sounds like, right?
I call it a reset. It
Okay.
helps the guys learn how to reset. I think some of the alkaloids is this is the hypothesis, and I have conversations with Dr. Andrew Huberman from Stanford, who's a huge advocate for us. He's got a great podcast.
So does it work?
Yeah, I think
The
60%.
neuro,
If
the
they're
neuros stuff, neuroscience, does that work? Do you completely heal from that?
Let me put it to you this way: there's nothing else that this that comes close to these treatments. Nothing, from my perspective, nothing comes close. And the thing that I learned the most is the work must continue. The work is what heals the person. They have to understand how to use their prefrontal cortex, and they need to understand how to do it themselves. And that's why I meant when it comes from within,
Oh,
like
okay.
their
So
faith.
let me
They need
ask.
to have faith.
Let me ask. When, when you traumatized psychologically and emotionally while as a Navy SEAL as well?
I got diagnosed with PTSD.
Oh, okay.
I think I saw some things overseas that that were hard as a medic, and young kids that shouldn't be hurt, they get hurt, and
Yeah.
you have to be the guy to fix them, and that's
And
leaves a mark,
and are you
and you see it in
complete?
your sleep.
Are you completely healed now?
Um, and again, there's that word heal.
Are you
I don't think there's
completely
a
restored?
destination. I think I've completely healed my nervous system where I feel like spiritually, physically, and mentally better than ever in my whole life, and I'm 45.
Oh, okay. And
So I don't think that's healed. I mean, you're a pastor, you understand that word very well. And I think that when we say healed, we tend to think that it's like I have cancer one day, I have zero cancer the next day. It doesn't work like that in mental health. Why? Because you're talking about a nervous system that functions like a computer. and that computer needs to get taken care of. And if it's beaten up and slammed, and here's your connection to trauma and addiction, it's the physical wounds of PTSD or TBI and PTSD. So a boxer gets hit in the head multiple times. You think he's not going to have mood swings or personality changes?
So are you saying
They,
that once you're traumatized psychologically and emotionally, you can never be completely restored?
no, I think the opposite. I think
You can
they
be
used to tell.
completely
I think they
restored?
used to tell us. They used to tell us if you injure your brain, it never heals. That's wrong.
Okay.
That's dead wrong because
Right.
we know that what we have is a thing called neuroplasticity. It's the ability for a neuron to reach another neuron to regroove itself. And this is again neuroscience. And this is really why the psychedelic issue is such a big deal. Is because you're starting, if we have the ability to take a 3D MRI and do before and after scans on someone's prefrontal cortex, which is our crown jewel of humanity, because it's what separates us from the herd, for good and for bad. Let me put it to you this way: the demons that we can manifest become much worse if this thing isn't controlled, right? If they don't have the helmet of salvation on, if you want to use that. But
So are you
yeah,
completely restored?
I'm as good as I'll ever be, and that doesn't mean I'm injury free. My mind, my body, and my soul are great. I'm on fire for the Lord. I have gratitude, but it's not like it. You don't. There's no destination. There's no utopic thing in life, especially in the mind.
So you
And I
don't
think
believe
everybody.
that it sounds like, and if I'm not quite understanding what you're saying, but it sounds like you're saying that you don't believe that you can be completely mentally and emotionally restored.
No, I said I do believe that.
Oh, you do
I
believe
believe
that?
that.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
when somebody says healed, I'm a medical guy, so when I hear the word healed, I'm thinking,
You're thinking
this break
physically.
is now not broke, and
Okay.
that's physical. I think that's people who think of physical healing, and I'm talking neurological healing, where there's a computer system and it's got, you know, a trillion different messaging flying around your body. The I like to think of things as energy, and that's a word that you don't really bring up in science because it probably resonates more like spirit.
Oh, so the stuff that you give the people, or that this doctor gives the people, is it psychedelic drugs?
Yeah, so it's from Gabon, Africa, and there's a community down there, and it's pretty amazing studying this tribe.
Does it get you
Uh,
high?
yeah, I mean, it's not high. It's like not like cannabis. It's not like LSD. It's not like ayahuasca. It's not like anything
What type
like
of
those.
high it gives you?
It's well, that's the first thing that happens is when you take it, generally, this is all, subjective, but generally I've seen a couple hundred of these. So that you'll get this kind of body feeling. For me, it was audio. I got a lot of audio hallucinations. I didn't really go anywhere the first time I did it. I didn't see anything. The second time I did. And what's fascinating is some guys, when they do it, it's like the guys that have the real hard addictions or a lot of trauma, it's like a truck hit them. The whole night they're heaving, not puking, but heaving, and just
So are you
you
like
know, in pain.
hallucinating?
Yeah. I
So
mean,
this drug
yeah,
that this doctor gives the trauma person, it causes them to hallucinate.
yes, yes.
And so in hallucination, do you think do you believe that that's a way it's going to help the trauma? It's going to make you well?
So this is what my hypothesis is that we have digital and analog. Okay. So the digital is the story. It's the hallucination. It's all the story that's the output. The analog is all the neurochemistry that's happening. So the analogy we like to use is what Ibogaine does is it takes all these grooves. Like I grew up in the north, and when we ice skated, there was grooves in the ice, and we had to get a Zamboni and smooth out the ice. Well, that's kind of what we think how the Ibogaine works is it smooths out the ice, and the product is this trip. It's a hallucination experience. Here's what's crazy. If you look back at time, you you look at indigenous people, they would say we were crazy as,
Huh.
the Caucasian, thing, because they'd be like, did they not know like how we use this?
So
So
you're
there's a
using the same type of hallucination drugs that the Indian use that they call it peyote or something like that.
so
Are
this
you
opens up
using that?
yeah, this opens the discussion up to all the other psychedelics and plant medicines. You could sit here for weeks talking about the differences and this and that. The Ibogaine comes from Gabon, Africa, and the tribe. You can look it up on any documentary, and you see how they use it. They use it as a community, as a spiritual thing. They'd use it as a community. When somebody was having problems, they would all take it as a community.
So if
So
one
what
person had a psychological emotional problem, everybody has to take the psychedelic drugs.
in that tribe, yeah,
And
that's
how
how
does that
they.
help that one person if everybody high?
Okay, that's just cool. I'm so happy we're having this conversation because this is another neuroscience thing. So you got dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and cortisol. We know what cortisol does. It's the stress hormone. It's the thing that causes the fat around our stomach. It's not good for the heart if you have a lot of cortisol, but you need it, and it's good for you as well. But the one that's called oxytocin, I call it vitamin S. It makes you feel safe. It's why they tell a mother to get skin on skin and the father to get skin on skin with a baby. That creates oxytocin. When a dog comes up to you and they want you to pet it right between their eyes, they're getting oxytocin.
And so,
So that's the community part.
oh, I see. But this drug that you take for the trauma, psychological and emotional trauma, it makes you hallucinate, right? But when you come
Yeah.
down from the hallucination, the problems are still there, right?
No, it's how they're dealing. Like that's what needs to be studied is that when they wake up from these experiences, there's a great number of them. Like I said, 60% are waking up and their faces because of that nerve. They're getting answers that they couldn't get in 10 years of talk therapy. There's things that happen in that experience that are so divine that it, it gives somebody a new perspective, a new outlook, and usually it's so fascinating when they wake up. We have top psychiatrists, psychologists, neuroscientists, cardiologists coming down there to see this. It's not like we're just some band of merry misfits going down there and doing this. We got UCLA, Stanford. I mean, I got Bobby Kennedy's son used it. This is not like you're
But
not having on here because because we're trying to repeat the 60s.
right.
The difference here is we have intention, we have neuroscience,
But
and
what I
that's
want
why
to
we
know
need
though,
psychedelics.
once you take the the drug, psychedelic drug, and you hallucinate, and in this state of hallucination, you see all these different things running through your mind. But once you come down and you're no longer high off the drug or using it, the problems are still there in reality. Do you have to go back on the drug, take some more, so you can hallucinate some more?
Okay, so this is another good debate. Let me address the first part. So the high is, again, I don't know your history or like people listening to this. The high is not the experience of being high on cannabis or
Right. No, you
LSD.
hallucinating. That's
This
pretty
this
serious.
these yeah, it's like they're not taking a little amount. It's a large amount, and so much though that with Ibogaine particularly, and here's the difference between Ibogaine and the other ones. People should not be doing these. Well, they shouldn't be doing psychedelics at all in a place that's not safe or somebody that's not accredited or knows what they're doing. This is the first thing, and it's probably the most important thing, that there will become, does open up a whole bunch of crap in terms of spiritual stuff. I don't need to go there right now, but it's just that needs to be addressed as well. What I'm trying to say is that that experience, when these guys come down there, they're in a mindset that if they don't get something done fast, or if this doesn't work, it's the end. So this is like, goes from a life-saving, basically psychological life-saving procedure. They don't have in the psychological or any of that stuff. They don't have a psychological condition that it's deemed life
So you're
threatening. They
saying that
don't
they're
have
at a
one.
point, some of them are at a point where they want to commit suicide. It's so bad, right? They want to take their lives.
Yeah, we're grabbing our friends and
Right.
putting them in white vans and driving them across the border because they only trust us because
Right. But
that's
then
how it
you get
works.
them down there and then you give them this psychedelic drugs and they start to hallucinate. And so in this hallucination condition or state of mind, they start to feel better. Am I right?
In that, no, not necessarily. In
When they
that
start to
state, there's
see
a lot
other.
of, it's like, it feels like a lot of energy. Okay. That's the best way to describe it, is there's a lot of energy. And we do teach people before they get down there. And that's the whole integration side of this is, they have to understand how to do breath work, and they have to understand that when things get crazy, you need to be grounded because it could be a nasty experience. If we're right about the the neuroscience behind this stuff, and if it does deem to have medicinal value, then we have to look at this as not the trip, but what's happening to the neurochemicals, not just the trip.
But once they do they become addicted to the drug?
No, so this is another huge fallacy, and I'm sure you'll do your research on this. It starts in the 1940s. It came to America in around 1970. A professor from NYU, Norman Lutzoff, and his wife. She's a beautiful black girl. He was a white geeky professor from NYU, and he was a cocaine addict. And his friend went to Gabon, Africa, and brought back this Ibogaine and said, "Take this; it could cure you." It did. He gave it to his colleague who was a heroin addict, cured him. And from then on, from 1960, the Lutzoffs were trying to get this thing approved. Made it to a girl named Deborah Mosh from the
But
University
what I
of
want to know though,
Miami,
once you
Florida.
take this stuff, do you become addicted to the drug
No, it's
itself?
not addicting at all. It's not.
But do
There's
you
no
have to
addiction.
take it every day to survive?
No, no, no. But I want to get into the
How
difference
often do
between
you have to take it?
some people. It's one time. They don't take this again. Mostly because a lot of these people that are doing this, a lot of these people, some people come down here to take these treatments,
Uh-huh.
and they're like $10,000-$15,000 to go to a good one like Beyond or Ambio or Mission Within. There's only three that I really know. All the other ones I wouldn't send anyone there. The thing is that it's expensive. It's hard to get into. The backup right now is over a year. So it's like there's this bottleneck. Um, I did it twice in 7
You
years.
did the
I
psychedelic
did it
drug
twice.
twice?
I did it twice. I did it 7 years ago, and then I did it 3 years ago. And I don't have any. I mean,
But do
I
some
don't have
people
any.
get addicted to it? Become addicted to it?
No, see, Ibogaine, no. Number one, no. There's no addiction to Ibogaine. There's no. To be honest with you, you can get psychologically addicted to cannabis, no question. Chemically, I don't think so. You
And
can get
so what
chemically
happens
addicted to
though
alcohol.
when reality set in again, they realize they're not. They still have the psychological and emotional issues. They have not gone away. Do they take more of those drugs, the hallucination drugs?
No, no. So if they need to go back and do it again, some guys do.
Okay.
It's like compare this to the standard of care for rehabilitation. You're looking at $174,000 per person, 12 visits, and look at their success rate. We have a small portion, and I can only speak from the spec ops community, MMA, professional sports, egotistic people that I've seen be able to afford this, that have hey, I can hire a Navy SEAL to come show me how to do this. So I don't see where this needs to go, which is to the prisons, to the lower economic. This might not happen in my lifetime,
So it's for
or
people with
you
a
know what I
lot of
mean?
money.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
how it works.
okay.
Isn't that how everything works
And
with medicine?
and so because of time here, it doesn't really heal you. It just makes you trip out of your head. It makes you think you're healed, right?
No, no, it resets your nervous system. It resets the neurochemistry in your body, and that's through an experience. So a lot of big pharma companies, they want to try to take the psychedelic effect out of these compounds and then make money and synthesize them and say, well, it's going to get you off your opioids, your fentanyl, your cocaine, your alcohol. And well, you don't have to do a psychedelic trip. And I'm sitting on these calls going, they don't get it. It took experiences, spiritual experiences, real experiences, trauma to get that person to where they are, to get that
So
programming where it is.
when you
It's going to take experience to get out of
when you're
that.
hallucinating on this drug, do you feel like you're having a spiritual experience?
Oh, oh, Jesse, if you ask people what's their most spiritual moments in their life, and you get someone that's done one of these, 99.9% of them are going to label an Ibogaine trip as one of the most spiritual things they've ever done. This goes on for thousands of years. These people have been doing this for tens of thousands and 20 of all the way back before we had words. They were
And
doing
so
this.
let me ask, so you took it and you had a spiritual experience, right?
Okay, so
Am I right
I'm
about
a
that?
yeah. Oh, I'll tell you my experience.
I
My
know,
second
but I'm
time,
trying to find out first. When you took it, you had a spiritual experience while you were hallucinating, right?
yes,
And
yes,
so, what did the spiritual experience feel like? What did that look like? What was it like? In short, what was that?
sure. Um, the the most spiritual experience I ever had in my life was on this 5-MeO DMT, which is the toad, and it's the same molecule that we make in our body, just slightly off. It's still DMT. We make it. When I did this, I was in a place of such despair. I was at my rock bottom. I lost everything. And I had my faith. I had a rosary in my hand, and they didn't want me to professing my faith because it's not fair to everybody else that's trying to heal psychologically. It could trigger them. And I was totally okay with that. But I remember this medicine hurting so bad the first time I did it, uh, which was 3 years before. And I did it that time. I surrendered everything I had, and it was 100% on Christ's intention. My whole body was completely in line with my faith at that moment. And when I did that, it was like I shot into the body of Christ. I could feel the shame and the horrible just energy from society. And then I kept surrendering. I had one tear. And because it hurt so bad the first time, I didn't want to fight anything. And I had drool coming out of my mouth. Two ladies, one older, one younger, one holding space for all these special forces guys at their just the most pivotal part of their life. These women are there for hundreds of them, thousands. And I had two of my SEAL classmates that I didn't see in 12 years sitting right behind me. And I just surrendered, and I felt this thing hit my chest, and it transcended, and it just felt like love just. So I basically used the story that was in my head, which is my faith, and the medicine kind of made it feel like it really happened. And so what that looks like is the body doesn't know the difference between a trip and reality. A nightmare feels real because of that effect. So if that's what happened in this trip, guess what? The neuroscience in my body is doing something so spiritual. That's what we need to study. And I don't think they're going to want to see what's going to say, what the data is going to show.
When you
Because when they
said
light
that
up
you
that
took
the thing,
something
they're going
from
to
a,
see.
when you say you took something from a toad, you mean like a frog?
So the Sonoran desert toad, it lives in the southwest of America, north part of Mexico. It lives underground 9 months of the year, comes up to mate. It's got these sacks. They look like acidic Jewish sacks. And I don't know who the hell,
Don't say
there's a,
Jewish.
I'm telling you, like if God was writing this story, it would make a lot of sense because you wouldn't tell me. I would say, once upon a time, there was a group of mighty warriors. They called them frogmen, and they used a toad venom to heal themselves from the wounds of war.
That's
I'd be like,
amazing.
that sounds like some kind of Marvel movie.
Amazing. So you took this stuff from this frog and you drank it. Or
No,
it's,
they dry it out and they put it in a vaporizer, and they actually smoke it.
oh, and then
It's
it caused you to hallucinate. And in that hallucination state, you have what you call a spiritual moment, right? And you said that
yeah.
you surrender. What did you surrender?
What did I surrender?
Yeah.
Um, from whatever that medicine was trying to prevent me to resetting. So I think this works as our nervous system, it needs to learn how to let go, like neurologically, and it can't do it when there's energy flowing in that. And so in order for that nervous system to allow to let go and reassociate, which is neuroplasticity, it has to feel safe. And that's what faith does. Faith allows us to feel safe.
So
And
in
in that
that,
state,
uh,
that's when the magic happens.
so
So
I'm black
faith,
and I'm slow and I'm really trying to understand it. So you surrender your nervous system?
your psyche, your nervous system is your mind. So
Oh, and
your
you,
mind is your nervous system. All that hardwiring, all those ideas, all those thoughts, all those
right.
things, like all those thoughts of, I can't believe I'm talking to this crazy white guy, like all that stuff going on. That's all bouncing my information off of your neocortex, and you're trying to base it off of your perception.
Amazing.
You see?
What,
Yeah.